J, 810 AM, the voice of the Philippines, proudly presents Piracy Watch with attorney Sarah Jane Sugitan, exploring the concepts of intellectual property rights and protection, teaching you how to protect what you create. And now, here's your host, Sarah Jane Sugitan.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Bruhard, sitting in for Attorney Sarah this morning. She's off fighting piracy in the real world, and we're here at DZRJ, and we're going to talk about piracy here in the world of radio. And with me today is an old friend of mine, Mike O'Connor. Mike, guys, it's really great to have you here, and I'm glad you've made it. He's just come back from an extended stay in the United States. And we're going to talk about maybe some of the technology changes over our generation and see what's being done to see what we can do to fight piracy. So, Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself. First of all, you're a Philam, I guess.
Yes,
and because the name O'Connor is not something I hear a lot here in the Philippines.
We're the only O'Connors born and raised here in the Philippines.
I see. So you're a local breed, I guess.
I'm a local brew.
A local brew. And I know that you and I have both been involved in branding and marketing and especially in the music industry over the years. And we've seen a lot of differences in technology over the years. You know, in the early days of vinyl, we didn't really think very much about piracy, did we?
At that time, no. Well, at that time, I was also sidelining as a disc jockey. Mm-hmm. I actually was working in an ad agency, and in the evenings, I am a DJ.
Okay, and well,
I used vinyls a lot.
Yeah. Ad agencies were something that we did a lot in those days too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in vinyl, there really wasn't much in the way of piracy going on with vinyl.
Not much. I would say I myself, maybe I wasn't conscious of what I was doing, because at that time, some friends would ask me to dub the vinyl that I have, which are all imported from the U.S. Subic Naval Base, and they would request me to dub or record that vinyl into cassette, and then I would just give it to them. I didn't know that there's some sort of, in a way, copying, but I'm not selling it.
Right. You know, that's one of the things that I was the same way, only I was the pre-cassette generation. we did everything on open reels.
You were talking of the open reel magnetic tapes.
Right.
I have them too.
Right. And we got a little bit better quality off the quarter inch than you got off the eighth inch of the cassettes. But mostly, if we had vinyl, we wanted to keep our vinyl in pristine condition. So we played it one time, taped it, and then played the tape until it stretched out, and then made another tape of it. But there wasn't a whole lot of selling or anything like that going on, I don't think.
Until some enterprising people in this industry thought of multiplying these cassettes, producing so many copies, and then I would see it in some markets, cassettes. During those days, in the mid-70s.
Right, I think that was the case. Mine was more in the 60s, and I spent a lot of time down in Southeast Asia during the Vietnam War, and of course, every base I was ever on always had a tape club. And this was probably copying or piracy of some sort, but when you got people getting shot at, most people weren't worried too much about that. But we did. The way that it worked out, to join the club, you brought a tape of your own that you had. And you donated that to the club, and that gave you the right to make copies of the other tapes that were there. But of course, in the analog days, every time we made a copy, it went, the quality went down.
Maybe because of the technology too, that it did not proliferate because of the quality of the dubbing or the recording, and the way it was done. It's so tedious.
Right, exactly.
Unlike what we are seeing now, it's so fast, it's so quick. In the millions of copies.
Exactly. In those days, it was done serially. It was time-based.
Exactly.
And if it was an hour long, it took an hour.
Exactly.
It took an hour to copy it. And these days, gosh, you can just copy things off on MP3s and other things. So what do we do about this? I think part of this show is sponsored by the IP office of the Philippines, I would like to invite everyone, if you have a brand of your own, or you have something that should be copyrighted, contact the IP office of the Philippines and have it copyrighted, because it's not expensive. It's 1,000 pesos.
I heard.
And we kind of believe that maybe we can never get rid of piracy. We can never eliminate it completely, but we can control it if more and more people have a vested interest in their own copyrights.
Right.
And so we would like to create this awareness with everybody that, hey, we're all in this together. And we need to protect all the things that we have.
Protect yourselves.
Let's protect ourselves by, first of all, registering with the IP office.
And that's the best way of controlling it, I guess.
Actually, I think so. You know, my time was mostly in Japan, and we had pretty much rampant intellectual property violations. Yeah, theft was a lot of people. It was called theft, and this was going on until locally the intellectual properties became an issue for themselves, and then everybody, Japan there's not very much thievery going on today, because most people have some sort of vested interest in their own copyrights, you see. And so if we can do this in the Philippines, then we can make some inroads into copyright theft, I think, you know, and that sort of thing. But let's look at some other areas. You know, you and I were in advertising. You know, there's another area where people use your things
ideas,
and your ideas and don't pay for them a lot of the time. So that's another area that maybe there needs to be some kind of changes in the rules or the laws. And of course, with the changes in technology and the way everything is changing, it's pretty difficult for the laws to keep up with
it's hard,
what's going on.
For our legislators to even pass bills that can cope up with the advent of technology. Like there is this, when at the time of, I remember there was this Videogram Regulatory Board. I know Mr. Bong Revilla at the time when he headed it, and now it's called the Optical Board, I guess. But there is no flash disk board. So how can you run after these people who are using the hard disk, the flash, and all these things?
Well, I think it comes down to, what was the name of that sharing, the music sharing business, 10 years ago or so? It was finally shut down by the U.S., I think. But the point is that it comes down to the personal integrity of the person that's just doing the copying as well. You know, there are a lot of things that we can copy and play today that we're not violating anybody's rights. Gosh, you know, we can go up on YouTube and download just about anything we want without it being against anybody or stealing from anybody. In fact, look what YouTube has done for some of the new stars today.
Yeah, it helped some people get popular.
You know, it's really done it. But you were saying before that the record industry here in the Philippines has taken a really bad hit because of the cop. How did that happen?
Well, you will see a lot of record bars closing or closed. Even the local industry, recording industry, I guess it's the PARI. I don't know if it's still called PARI, the Philippine Association of Recording Industry, is suffering because of the music piracy. And it's all about price war. Of course, the people, especially third world countries, would buy a cheaper product, which is good enough. But if we would like to really control and fight these pirates, why don't the recording industry come, fight them in this same level, like bringing the prices of the disc CDs down to a more reasonable rate that these consumers of pirated products can afford.
Well, sure. It's the same thing in software, of course, as well. We have a country that if we don't have access to the software, we can't learn and we can't train and we can't do other things. So how do we justify, if a person can go down to a Changi and
Changi,
you can go down to a place to buy a 40 peso disc of something that costs $1,000.
Right.
You know,
Mhm.
who's going to pay the $1,000 if you can do that? It's a really pretty difficult thing. And are we getting ready for a break here? No. Okay. Okay, everybody stay tuned because we're about ready for a traffic and weather update from charlieoftraffic.com. Okay, we're back now. I'm here talking with Mike O'Connor. And before we go any farther, I'd like to remind all of you again, if you've got a brand or something that should be copyrighted, a name, please contact the the IPOPHL, and you can just Google them, and you'll find out the www site and the Facebook, and a place where you can register, and it only costs 1,000 pesos. You know, we were just talking about the problems. You mentioned something about record bars. I'm sorry, I don't know what a record bar is.
A record bar is where you buy these vinyls or CDs or anything about music.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see. It's like a record store.
Like a record store, yeah.
Like
a
the
record
Virgin,
bar.
Virgin,
Yeah,
Virgin
like
stores
Tower
in the United States, Tower
Records,
Records.
yeah.
Yeah, come to think of it, we don't see very many of those
They
anymore,
closed.
do we?
Even Tower closed.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah,
Did
they
really?
were here a few years ago. They closed.
But now we can go to places and buy the pirated things in various places
Well,
around.
this business created its own capitals in the city, where these kind of activities proliferate, like the one in Green Hills.
That's the most famous that
The
I've
Green
heard
Hills.
of, yeah.
The one in Quiapo.
Oh, Quiapo is another one, yeah. I
Well,
see.
places like Quezon City, in Cubao, even in my place in Alabang. That's the problem. It evolved into an industry.
Wow, and how do you? And again, we were just talking about software. How do you tell somebody, hey, you need to pay $1,000 for this software when they can go get it for 60 pesos or 80 pesos?
How can you
it's a
prevent-
very, very difficult thing.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I thought would be very good, some companies or some software vendors have done a good job of, for example, giving you 30 days free on the software to use
Yes,
it
to use,
and to
yes.
learn it.
Mhm.
And then if you don't buy it, then it just puts some kind of watermark on the screen so
That
that
you can-
so that everybody knows you can still use it. You can do a lot of the things that you would want to do with it, but everybody will know that it's not a legal copy
yes.
or what is there. And you still have the ability to learn and to use things. So there have been good inroads made. But what do you do about schools and things like that? How does that work out? You know, where how does a school afford the software needed to train its own students in some of these things? How do we do that?
Beats me.
See, everybody I talk to, nobody has the answer. You know, we really don't know what direction to go or how, but we know that it's wrong to steal, and
It
we
is,
know
yeah.
and we know that it's wrong to be a pirate. But how do we convince ourselves not to do it? How do we convince our kids not to do it?
Whoa. That's hard.
And I have an 8-year-old, and she's growing, and we do though. I mean, she gets up on YouTube and she puts things down on her iPod, but I don't think there doesn't seem to be any limitation to downloading or anything like that with it. It's not anything that is copy protected. You can't download anyway, and so it seems quite all right.
The problem is I myself don't know how to do that.
Well, she doesn't either. I help her. I help her with that. But no, that's one of the things, you know, that now how do we stop it? And again, it goes back to having a vested interest in not copying. I know as a writer, when I first started out in the business and I found somebody copying my things and not putting my name on it.
Of course, yeah.
I was a little flattered in the beginning because, hey,
But
wow, you know,
that's,
somebody's stealing my stuff.
yeah.
But then it became, if it proliferates, frankly, it kind of dilutes your name and causes other problems. And so we should do something
And somebody
about it.
making money out of it.
Right. Well,
That's it.
that is a problem. So where do we draw the line, and how do we stop some of these things? This is called Piracy Watch, and the Intellectual Properties Office, of course, is doing its best to monitor these things and find them and to destroy pirated goods or fake goods, for example, in the clothing industry, some of those things. But it's a monumental task.
It is. I don't know if the IPO alone can do that.
No, it has to go back to self-control and some self-awareness. Or again, if I've copyrighted my own product or I've copyrighted my own name, I don't want somebody using my thing. So maybe if there are more people who have done that, they will be more cognizant of other people
again
doing it.
educating, education, information.
Yeah, good. And we've talked mostly about the music industry because that's something we've done. And but how about other things? For example, handbags. Is one of the.
These are all imported from where.
Well, they all come from China, I think.
Yeah, and there are different kinds of real fakes. There's a Class A, there's Class AAA, and we patronize it.
And here's the thing that is puzzling to me. I've never been interested much in brand products, but I've seen local handbags for 1,000 pesos that are local at the regular price, and I think they're every bit as good as those $1,000 things.
Branded, yeah.
The branded ones.
Yeah.
And if those people who designed these local bags would register and be a little bit louder and noisier about their own brands, then maybe people would say, hey, let's buy this local brand. We don't have to have a Gucci. We don't have to have. But I guess there's this feeling of I would rather have something local that's legal that is from a local brand than to have a fake
imported fake.
An imported fake. It just doesn't seem to make much sense to me. But I'm not one of the people who are buying those things, I guess.
Well, I guess these imported fakes proliferate, or they outsell even the good local brands because of, again, the Filipino mentality, the colonial mentality.
That's what everybody tells me is the Filipino mentality. I'm sorry, I don't understand exactly that, but
we're very colonial. Like anything imported coming from the States, we patronize. But when it's local, we kind of, that's local.
That's not the real thing.
It's not the real thing. It doesn't have that ring in its name, unlike a Hermes or a Gucci compared to a Manel's or a Jose. There are good brands, local brands of leather bags, which I am familiar with. But then again, it's the mentality, the consumer. We've been victims for so many years of this kind of thinking.
So how do we encourage local creative people to use their names? In other words, let's get it out. Because we're in the branding business. How do we encourage this? And it is true they don't have a lot of money to be able to promote themselves. How do we start that kind of motion here to do? Okay, hey, we're going to take a break here for the VOA News. And I hope nobody's going to go anywhere because I'm going to be back talking with Mike just as soon as the VOA News is over.
We now return to Piracy Watch on DZRJ, 810 AM, the voice of the Philippines. Here's your host, Sarah Jane Sugitan.
Hi, we're back here. By the way, again, Attorney Sarah is out fighting piracy in the real world, and we're talking about it here on the radio. By the way, if you're listening on the radio, you can also stream this at www.ustream.tv/channel/DZRJ-810-AM. And if you'd like to take a look at Mike and me, you can also see us on www.facebook.com/DZRJ81 or 810 AM. Mike, I don't think we've solved the problem of piracy, but we were talking before the break I've
about
forgotten what we were
some,
talking about.
well, about some local brands that are now thinking global, coming up with better designs, better quality, let's say leather material for their bags or shoes, better quality denim material for their pants. I could mention like Pen Shop is coming up with a lot of good denim products that could compete with some real fakes.
Right. Well, that's what I've believed, and we're involved with the super brand idea that here in the Philippines we would like to promote good brands or super brands to advertise themselves and bring themselves to the next level and become global super brands. Right now, outside the country, we've only got two. One is San Miguel beer, and the other is Manny Pacquiao, I guess. And it would be nice if we could come up with the Pen Shop or one of the other local brands.
One of the bigger names that actually made inroads into the Asian market and even China is Bench.
Bench, okay. And what do they make?
And Bench, they do clothing. They even do clones. They do a lot of things to wear, even towels, even watches. Bench has expanded into so many things, even hair care, I guess.
Care.
Yeah.
Well, all of us that still have hair, that's
yes.
one of the things that we
aside
want
from
to
clothing, they branch into hair care. Yeah.
Well, I think again, when we look at it, we can't just look at piracy and say, okay, everybody, let's stop stealing things or let's stop pirating things. Let's think of ways to promote the real thing. And again, this comes back to registering your own name, registering your own product at the IPOPHL, and it's a very easy thing to do, and it only costs 1,000 pesos. I was really shocked when I found out it could be done that cheaply.
That's so reasonable. Yeah.
That's it. And but again, if you're a parent out there, how do you keep your kids from copying or downloading or doing BitTorrent or all of those things? How do we develop an alternative, a legal alternative to these things, Mike? I mean, again, we have to get with the software makers, we have to get with the music makers, and one of the things, as you're saying, if we can get the local record companies to kind of adjust their prices down. They'll never get down to the Changi level.
No, you can't.
But the quality will be a lot better, and people will feel better about buying things that are.
And then if you inform the consumer about this, who knows, they may opt to get the original product than the cheaper pirated because of the quality, and it's the original. Nothing beats the original.
No, I don't think so. And when I was growing up, we used to, I didn't come from a family that could afford the crocodile on the shirt.
Oh, okay.
we just, we went down to the Goodwill and bought whatever was left over. And they wear just as well, but I know I buy local brand tennis shoes here. I buy local shoes here, but the kids want Skechers and the other things.
Again,
isn't that interesting?
Again, because of maybe the popularity of the brand and being imported.
Right.
Again.
So again, we have several ways of approaching this problem of piracy. We can't eliminate piracy, but we can enhance the local brands and enhance the perception of the local brands, so that people don't feel that they have to be buying something that's fake.
Right.
And again, we do that by, and again, the IPO PHL, the Intellectual Properties Office, takes a two-tiered approach to this. One is, of course, enforcing the law and trying to do away with piracy, but at the same time getting people to register their things so that they'll have a vested interest in it, and we will change the perception of everyone about what is piracy and what they ought to be doing about it. Good. Now you said that record shops, you call them record
bars.
Record bars, I guess. Record bars. And Tower Records Tower Records has closed here, have they?
Yeah.
Wow. And Virgin Records, I guess, was never here.
Well, no. it's a label, but
Yeah.
it's not like a record store.
Uh-huh.
It's a Virgin Records as a label,
Right.
yes, being distributed by a local recording company here that presses the albums or makes the disc or whatever.
Oh, I see. But you don't have an actual Virgin stores
No,
here. I
no.
see.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I go to the States. The first thing you do is you go into a Virgin record
Yes,
store.
yeah,
You
or
go into-
Tower Records or
Tower
Columbia.
But the world is changing, and we can't just say, okay, this is bad, the technology is bad, or whatever. Last week we were talking about books, of course. Now, who is it? Borders, I think, is going
Borders,
is
yeah.
going bankrupt now, or is
Even
going
Barnes
to
and Noble.
Barnes and Noble is having problems, and yet Amazon just announced that the number of ebooks now outnumbers the number of printed books that they're selling.
Exactly.
And I've been using ebooks for 10 years. I've read exclusively ebooks. And the thing is that people worry about the piracy there. My experience has been that you can't trade ebooks with other people the way you can trade
Books.
paper books or other
Hardbound,
things.
yeah.
In other words, you buy an ebook, one person reads it pretty
Yes.
much, or maybe your kids might be
At
able
home,
to read it
yeah.
at home. But yeah, it isn't something you can trade around. So this is one place where maybe the writers have a better chance of getting
exposed.
paid for what
paid for
what
yeah.
for what they're doing. And certainly the price of printing a book. My experience was mostly in Japan. If you're printing something only in 500 or 1,000 pieces, you're
costs a
looking
lot.
at $50
Yes.
a shot for a book, which is a lot of money. Where you can do it all for 50 cents
On ebooks, yeah.
on ebooks,
Uh-huh.
and so it doesn't really make sense to print
Exactly.
most of the
Yeah.
things, and so we can't just say, well, we learned it this way, so this is the way it has to be. The technology is moving, and we have to move along with the technology.
have
We're
to
not
keep
going
abreast
we're
with
not
technology.
going to get rid of flash
way.
drives. We're not going to
No.
get rid of MP3. We're not going to get rid of MP4 or any of those things. So how do we bring it? How do we do it? So again, we're going to have to talk to the government. The government does have to address this, and we should expect our representatives, I don't mean just here in the United States as well, or in Japan as well, we should expect them to study enough to understand how to legislate
Laws,
for these new technologies.
Yes.
Because we're way behind, aren't we?
We are.
Yeah. And do you have any suggestions for how it might be done here?
Here,
Yes.
with the way our legislative and judiciary is moving, cases filed 10, 15 years ago, never been given decisions. How?
That's one of the things that I think we ought to bring up, that the Intellectual Properties Office has cleared a whole lot of things in this last year that had been outstanding, and that's one of the
Really?
things that they've been working on.
That's good.
Is to move things faster and to move them ahead. And I recently wrote an article about it, but I don't remember everything right here. But yeah, they are working toward that, and that is streamlining the caseload. Is a big thing. You shouldn't have a problem and have to wait 5 years to have it heard. To understand what's going on. And so I think that they've moved a lot of things down into the 4 month or the 3 month
That's good to
category,
hear.
which
That's
before
good to
were in
hear.
the in the years category, and that's a great progress, I think. But it does take an understanding of technology, and this is one of the problems that people of my generation. I've been in high tech forever and ever, so it wasn't a problem with me personally. But people of my generation stayed. They wouldn't touch computers. They wouldn't touch technology. They wouldn't even learn to type. Most of them, and so they kind of just left themselves, and yet they were the guys in charge.
Exactly.
And so
how could our legislators pass laws when they themselves cannot even, let's say?
Well, we had a case of a presidential election recently in which one of the candidates couldn't even use email. I don't think, and so
Exactly.
And so I can sympathize for somebody who doesn't Twitter, because I'm not a tweeter myself. Not because I think it's awful. It's just that it's not something that I want to do. But I think we should continue this after our break, because we're going to have an interview of Jojo Scott with Mrs. Fatty Ortega about the Palawan killings. Let's listen to that now.
We now return to Piracy Watch on DZRJ, 810 AM, the voice of the Philippines. Here's your host, Sarah Jane Sugitan.
Hi, we're back here. I'm not Sarah Jane. I'm Larry Bruhart, but I'm sitting in for Sarah today because she's out working to eliminate.
But you're looking good, Larry.
But not as good as Sarah.
Sarah.
But
yes.
Thank you very much for hanging around, because in this last segment, I think that we would like to continue talking about ways to promote local brands, because I think that's one of the big answers to cutting down controlling piracy. Yeah. And again, I think it's important that we use the word control, not eliminate. We can't eliminate crime. We cannot eliminate a lot of things, terrorism, but we can control it. We can do things about it.
Like you say, if you can't lick them, join them, but control them.
No, exactly. And for all of you that are listening out there, you can also stream us at www.ustream.tv/channel/DZRJ-810-AM. And if you want to take a good look at the two old guys that are here today, you can see us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/DZRJ810AM. Yeah, we can't beat them, we can't join. We join them, and all of us maybe have sometimes been guilty of copying things when we shouldn't, and it's something we shouldn't do that, and we should try to do our best to stay with the law, and we should ask our government officials to come up with rules that fit what the world is, the way the world is today.
But you know what, Larry? Some of our balikbayan countrymen, they come here, and then they would go back to the States. They would buy these expensive real fakes in Changi, in Green Hills, and bring it to the States as a gift. See?
Yeah, well, I know that's one of the problems. But you know that if you go into the airport in Japan, or if you go into the airports in the United States, they have these cabinets that have these fake goods, and it says, "Don't bring this in because we're gonna put you in jail if we're gonna take them away."
But still, they get away with it.
Yeah,
I had a friend who bought about $1,000 worth of real fakes in Green Hills and was able to bring it in and gave it to his employees.
Really?
Secretaries and all that.
Well, we'd like to encourage people not to do that. I would rather see them buy real Filipino goods and take them back and say, "Hey, here's what's made in my home country, and this is really some good stuff, and you should learn about it." And those are the sort of things that we need to do. Again, if you've got a product, you've got a brand, you've got a name, register it with the intellectual properties of the Philippines. And again, it only costs 1,000 pesos. That's it. And so, are there some final things you'd like to say today about what we've been talking about, Mike O'Connor?
Well, aside from saying thank you, Larry, or Sarah, for having me here. I just arrived. I still feel jet lagged.
Yeah, that's right. You just got back on when? Friday, was it?
Yeah, it's Friday,
I guess. Yep. Well, I would just like to tell everybody thank you very much for allowing me to sit in for Sarah Jane today. And she'll be back, and she looks a lot better than I did, but she'll be back next week at this very time. And until then, hey, watch the piracy.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
You have been listening to Piracy Watch with attorney Sarah Jane Sugitan. Piracy Watch, an exclusive presentation of DZRJ.